Remember those headlines with Merkel saying criminal banks looting us by design? And she actually came out, and she's a globalist, but she said that they had to kick the big central banks out because they were destroying the country. So, I mean, the globalists are even fighting with each other.
Well, as predicted, the millionaires are fighting with the billionaires, because of this credit crash, which is making everybody who is less than $100 million net worth fight for their lives, because the wealth is being confiscated through draconian taxes, through all kinds of new regulations, and through capital controls, and through all kinds of new predatory practices that are being given to the banks. The financial reform bill actually gives the banks more ways to prey on folks. They make them even bigger than they were before, and it's just going in the opposite direction. Now, as you point out, the governments in Europe, they were shocked, as it says in this article, at the emergence of the past transaction between Goldman and Greece and Italy, where products the bank helped to sell aided them in hiding the debt. Greece, which used Goldman in a bond sale, is practically a war with the bank. So here they say Greece is at war with Goldman Sachs, and they should be, just because there's a war on terror. And I don't condone terror, and Goldman Sachs is a terrorist, and they need to be shut down.
Because they're not going to stop. I mean, as Thomas Jefferson said, quoting him again, the level of tyranny you will live under is the exact amount you put up with. Of course, if they've got the regulators and are able to rob everyone, they're going to do it. Of course, if private corporations can be given top-level CIA, NSA clearances and be given government power, they're going to grab it. I mean, it's amazing.
Well, the question is, why are Americans condoning this financial terrorism and the countries in Europe? And by the way, when this news was announced, the euro traded up because people said they're doing something against terrorism. The euro was remember, a couple of weeks ago, they said the euro was going to go to parity with the dollar. It was crashing. It was 120. Now suddenly it's back to 130. Why? Because the governments are getting rid of the financial terrorists. They're kicking out Goldman Sachs. Europe is a buy again.
Before you leave us, I want to get into all this talk about the dollar's demise, the Chinese taking away our AAA rating, Moody's taking away the rating of Ireland, where you see things going in the short and long term. But right now, let's go quickly to calls. Al in Arizona, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hey, how you doing, Alex? Thanks for taking the call. I wanted to point out two things. One is the race for McCain. There's a guy running by the name of Jim Deacon, and he is the man that stands for what we believe in. Not Hayworthless and not McSame. Also,
well, listen, I agree Hayworth isn't perfect, but he's light years. He's not anti-gun and pro-open border. And he's anti-NAFTA and GATT. I think J.D. Hayworth, that's why they ran him out of Congress. The fact that he was run out of Congress, the House, shows he's better than McCain. And I've looked at the race closely. The other guy has got hardly any numbers, and I know he's great. But wouldn't you, it's neck and neck with McCain and Hayworth. Wouldn't you rather vote for J.D. Hayworth and send McCain home like Arlen Specter?
I don't trust either one of them. They've been in politics. They're career politicians. And Hayworth has a lot more dirt on him than people know. The other thing I wanted to bring up is family court. The guy that called in about family court, I spent 10 years in Las Vegas trying to reform family court. He needs to get into mediation and get out of family court. That whole system is designed to steal your money and destroy your family.
Al, do you know the history of family court? And
yes, I do.
This segues into Keiser. For those that don't know, it was set up in England about 130 years ago. In the U.S. and about the last 95, it started in a few eastern states. It's outside the Constitution. There's no due process. They say because they're protecting the kids. And so it's a judge. It's not a jury. And it's totally illegal. And now it's come out that they have quotas on taking kids, and it's all a big casino gulag, like Max talks about, meant to destroy families and get as much money as possible. I appreciate your call. Your take on the family courts, Max Keiser.
It plays into the privatization of the prison system and companies like Corrections Corps of America, which is a publicly listed corporation on the New York Stock Exchange. The more prisoners they have, the more profits they make. Not only do they own the prisons, but they own the restaurants and the hotels near the prison. So when you go to visit your family in prison, you stay at the hotel and you eat at the restaurant that is owned by the prison. And it's a hugely profitable business. And you put kids in prison, it's just more money for the private prison operators.
And I've noticed,
objective.
I've done an analysis of the big three prison companies. They're all tied to big banks that Bloomberg admits are laundering the drug money. So the drug dealers own the prisons your kids are in.
Well, did you see that story about Wachovia, which is now owned by Wells Fargo? They were caught laundering $250 billion for drug cartels in Mexico.
They even own the aircraft. They even own the aircraft.
Yeah, they don't deny it. They were just given a slap on the wrist. They paid a fine. Now, it's amazing that back in 2008, when the credit crisis was at its nadir, and Hank Paulson was in front of Congress begging for $700 billion to keep his buddies Goldman Sachs alive, the only cash available to roll over short-term paper on Wall Street was available from the drug cartels. And this is a documented fact. They're the only organization in the world that had actual cash. Everyone else was rolling virtual treasury nonsense.
Well, that's the point I'm trying to make, is that we're in deadly danger, folks. I mean, when I say the government and the big mega corporations are completely ruthless and criminal and want to bankrupt you so they can have an emergency reorganization and secure their ill-gotten gains, I mean it. I mean, none of us, whether you work for the FBI or you're a school teacher or a nuclear physicist or a TV host like Max Keiser, 99% of us are on the short end of the stick in this. The new world, they got so many petty people they give little badges and security clearances to and these little power trips. Folks, you better choose sides now. We better decide to get rid of these people or it's over. I mean, I'm not kidding around here. Max, comments? Yeah. Any other?
Well, I think the demarcation between safety and money. You know, on Wall Street, we used to have what we call the FU money, which is the amount of money you needed to basically say FU to the system. And, you know, back in the 80s, I think if you had $10 or $20 million, you could comfortably say FU to the system. But today, that number's up at the 100 to 200 million range. Unless you've got 100 or 200 million to really seriously bribe the politicians you need to bribe to stay out of prison, you are vulnerable.
I've heard a lot of really rich people talk about FU money. People worth $2-3 billion that 3-4 years ago left, and they said there will be no America. And I guess that's the only positive thing is the top globalist and then their wealth, wealthy people who they're in the same family with but who disagree with each other. There's a lot of fights going on within these families. They realize they've destroyed things so badly. That was even the Financial Times last year, that it may destroy their own system. They've been so greedy, it's gotten out of control in this orgy of looting. And so the fact that they're leaving the country shows they know there's a good chance they're going to end up going to prison.
Well, that's the old adage, shear, don't slaughter. And a few greedy folks slaughtered the golden goose of the vulnerable and culpable and gullible American public.
We're going to go to break, come back and jam in Joe, BJ, Steve, a few others with Max Keiser. Always informative to have Max on with us once a month. His website's maxkeiser.com. Our websites are infowars.com and prisonplanet.com. The search term today that we want to push to #1, we've done this 3 or 4 times in the last 5 days, is Google spies. Because don't use the old terms. They're now blocking those. So just search the term Google spies. It'll take them right to prisonplanet.com and the Obama deception and how we expose Google. And they are a bunch of NSA spies. Let's talk to John in Las Vegas. You're on the air with Max Keiser. Go ahead, Joe.
Joe in Las Vegas, Alex. First of all, I want to say we love you. We respect you, my wife and I. And yesterday I posted a comment on your message board under Infowars.com under the Obama Deception Censored. And today when I checked my stats on my own site, I noticed that the Homeland Security gave me a visit. And the way I know that is you have to register and actually enter the entry page, and it records it. And I got a screenshot right now up on that link that I posted my comment from. Oh, yeah, we pay our tax money to be spied on by a bunch of private corporate crooks. I mean, Keiser, how creepy is that?
Well, it gets back to something called the asymptotic curve. The cost for data storage, data processing, and data transmission is constantly moving towards zero. So it doesn't cost anything for the government, or it costs, of course, a lot of money, but the cost to them is getting cheaper every day. So they just rake information. So to get a visit to a website, to your website, to make a comment, sure, just put that into their master database. Another company on the top secret America list, by the way, is Oracle. Oracle software. They make all the databases. That's where all the secrets are kept. Larry Ellison, the billionaire, who's always winning the World Cup with his fabulous yacht racing, he's on the top secret America list, along with Google and these other information technology companies. But the cost of all this stuff keeps getting cheaper and cheaper. So while it's cheap for bloggers to blog because you have an international audience, it's cheap for the government to spy. But what's asymmetric and what's unacceptable is that the government simply gets rid of the competition, gets rid of all the blogs, gets rid of all the dissenting views, and keeps all the economies of scale of having cheap surveillance technology. That's completely busted, man. We want to compete fairly. We want to be free speech. We want to have views and opinions expressed. We don't want to have to blog for credit, to go into a virtual slave plantation to get processed cheese for every 14 hours of clicking we do. That's not tolerable. We're not going to stand for that.
Joe, I appreciate your call. Good points.